fuel and forts on the boat 78. In this video we take a look at fuel systems, how they work and how to change your fuel filters efficiently.
And a purple flower pot, plastic flower pot under there. Obviously it has to be purple.
We take a long walk up the hill to the fort and look at some Roman ruins, and we tell you why it is that these two vessels are linked to the fort on the hill. Oh, it's a steep old hill. And more to go. See how steep it is. It's not that bad a condition inside, you know. Somebody's torn all the copper pipe and copper wire out. But
somebody's put a lot of work into it. It's like, yeah. But we'll have it. Let's have it.
why do people smash things up? But they're modern tiles, aren't they? We could be the folks that lived on the hill. So this is a castle of St. Angelo. It was originally a watchtower from around 1585, but later on, in around 1640, it was turned into a fort. The fort has never actually fired its guns in anger, and it was later decommissioned in the late 19th century. However, during the invasion of Sicily on the 10th of July 1943, it was bombarded by the USS Brooklyn and USS Buck. The two damaged parts of the fort were later repaired. In 1965 the fort totally closed down, but it was declared a historic monument and later restored in the 1980s. The Allies' invasion of Sicily was no mean feat. Under Montgomery and Patton, the joint forces were deployed mainly from the sea. The local museum keeps some of the original invasion maps and even has photographs of the Americans on the shore. However, it didn't go all the Americans' way, and the 82nd Airborne got into some fierce fighting just down the road at Gallia. The Allied forces eventually overcame the remnants of the German and Italian army, but unfortunately 39 members of the 82nd Airborne lost their lives. The War Graves Commission maintains a monument to these brave lads' sacrifice. We just met an Italian guy, a local guy, who said that unfortunately it's closed due to the COVID, but it's actually a Spanish fortress from 1651. So I'm going to have to get on the interweb and have a good look. Put some information, you know where, down there. Absolutely beautiful. Oh, the rainbow. We just walked down the steps, ancient Roman steps. They are!
They're not ancient Roman.
He said that's ancient Rome and Greek buildings.
Buildings, not steps. This might be a part Roman one.
These are Roman, and because I can't remember, but somebody invaded them, so they all ran away to here. And some wealthy Romans had these houses here with servants. And there's a couple of bits where there's a mosaic on the floor and bits like that, but we can't go right in. We might be able to see them from here somewhere. But, you know, back in Roman times, they didn't have to find space for a 50-inch screen
TV,
LCD TV,
or a dishwasher,
yeah,
or a washing machine. But then they did have slaves.
Yeah, that's right. It must be a valuable thing for them to spend some money putting all the roofing on it.
I'll see if I can read it. My Italian translation's not good, but it says something. This area, the remains of 7 houses.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 7 houses.
Yeah.
Oh, oh,
Shall we do it again?
You do it again.
Take 2.
Take 2. I'll try and translate it for you. It says this area remains of 7 houses.
The group of houses developed according to the
I've done it again, Dean. They must bury people upright here to have those so close together. Bury them standing up.
Lower them in with their feet.
I've been in here 200 years. It was only last week they put me up the right way. Well, that's enough of that joviality. Let's look at diesel systems and diesel filters on your boat. Our engine is based on a 3-cylinder Perkins, so that's what I've drawn out. But all diesels are roughly the same. We have a diesel tank with a filler and a breather. It will have a pickup pipe and a shut-off valve before it goes through the first water separator and filter before it enters the lift pump. It's important to remember that the blue piece of pipe here is actually under negative pressure before it gets to the lift pump. From the lift pump it's under low pressure, and it will then go through a secondary filter. Some of these often have a priming pump on top, like ours does. These secondary filters can be either the screw-on type or the cassette type. It depends on how your engine's set up. From the secondary filter, the fuel is then pushed through to the injector pump. The injector pump works at very high pressures. In fact, it will push the diesel through your skin, so you have to be careful when messing around the other side of the injector pump. From the injector pump, the fuel is distributed to your injectors, one for each cylinder. Any surplus fuel that doesn't go out of the injector and into the cylinder bore will actually return back to the tank via this green line. Diesels known as common rail diesels work in a slightly different way, but the principle behind the way your fuel gets from the tank to the engine is the same. So that's the theory. Let's have a look at it in real life.
So, filming with two cameras, this one here and this one here, so that you can get a really good view of where these filters are. So this is the secondary filter with its pump, and down here is the primary filter, and this has a water separator in it. This is known as the CAV type. We do actually have another filter in front of this one. I won't go into that now, but the next job to do is to turn these. This one turns off and this one unbolts. The first thing I'm going to do is turn off our diesel. Turn off our diesel just to stop that flowing once I take this off. So I'm going to start with the secondary filter. It's pretty easy to do. Our secondary filter also has a magnet on it, just in case there's any bits and bobs that get in there, but there won't be now. Okay, so we're going to start on our filters now. I've put one of these puppy pads or pig mats down, and I've put the bottom of a water bottle over the secondary filter and a purple flower pot, plastic flower pot under there. Obviously it has to be purple. Let's show you this on the GoPro. So there's the secondary filter with its pump on top, and there's the primary filter, and actually we've got another filter behind that, but I'll tell you about that another time. And this is the mechanical pump for the engine. So this shouldn't be that tight. It was changed the year before last. They're supposed to be changed every 400 hours or so. So let's see if it comes off easily and effortlessly. Now let's turn our diesel off, just to stop it siphoning through. Yeah, let's see if I can get that off by hand. Yeah, it's coming. There it goes. It's just starting to drain into that jug. There we go. Thank you, assistant. So my assistant has now passed me a new diesel filter, and note that she has just smeared some diesel around the top of that flattened O-ring. That then goes back on there. And again we've just put a date tag on that, and that's all it needs, just finger tight, just past finger tight, and that's that one done. Purple bucket is underneath, and you remember I told you that there is an 11mm bolt on there which holds that together. I'll show you what it looks like once we get it out. There we go. Just let that drain for a second. I think we'll leave it for 5 minutes just to drain down. can have a cup of tea.
I don't think you'll get out of there.
Okay, so we've got our primary filter out, and this one's a water separator. Just want to point out these to you. On the top of this bolt there's a small O-ring, so that needs to be replaced. And then at the bottom where this seals, there's an O-ring that actually sits in there. You can see that. Let's see if you can see that on the camera. Yeah, there's an O-ring that sits in there on the underside of that filter housing, so that needs to be replaced. So the next O-ring is in there, and let's put this down. Let's see if it's got a colour mark on it, because they normally have a colour mark. I know the bottom one is the pink one. And then there's another O-ring which is in the other side of the filter, which goes on there on the top of the housing, so I'll change that as well. So our new gasket is now pressed home. There's a little smear of diesel around there just to stop it sticking to the casing. This one will slide down on top of that. This O-ring goes on that bolt like that, and we'll seal the top. This one will go on the piece of metal that hangs down into there, and when this gets tightened up it will compress into this position here, and then this one will sit on top of there in the main housing. So I've just got to take that main housing one out and then put this back in again. I can feel that's in all the way round, and our small O-ring goes on there like so. That's on there in position. Our filter sits on top of that. Locates on there. This is where you need two hands. One to hold the filter in position, one to tighten up the nut. And now what we're going to do is just tighten that home. Okay, so our primary filter's on, our secondary filter's on. I'm now going to turn our fuel on and just release this little M10 bleed screw on the top there. And then we pump. I've done a few pumps on that now, and I can hear diesel coming up into the filter. And at any second now, the diesel is going to come out of that little bleed screw. There it goes. Now these engines have a shut-off valve to the diesel pump. When it's when the engine's not running, that valve is normally closed. So the pump is all full, and so are the injectors. It hasn't bled back. There'll be a little bit of air in this line here, but generally these engines are self-bleeding, so you don't need to go through all the rigmarole of bleeding down to the injectors. So my trusty assistant will now start the engine and we'll check for leaks. done. So before we finish, just wanted to say that no chopping boards or work surfaces have been harmed in the making of this film. Thank you.
You see? Can you see the building? Look, someone living in the top one, and the bottom one's got acros holding the main wall up.
There's no floor in the one below, but they feel safe in the top one.
And looks like the bottom one's occupied as well.
It's probably occupied with all the furniture on the second floor.
Don't worry, it'll all be down on the first floor. We just stood here waiting for the supermarket to open, and started looking around at how many different types of architecture there are, and how some of it is moving. A 2-inch gap there in that wall, 50mm. Some flipping bricks, some ancient stuff, hand cut, old sort of cob, and then the local bricks on the corner.
Ant will know what it is. It's very thorny.
It's a tree.
As well, look. Yeah. Look at all the thorns going up the stems. Wow. Yeah. What kind of tree? What fruit is that, Ant, on there?
It's almost like an aubergine stuff.
It is, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine it being a tree. It's candy floss tree, of course.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share, or join the Patreon crew.
Sail safe.